Hello everyone, welcome to Josh's Boxes. My name is Josh, and today I wanted to spread the hype and give some love to Aether Nexus. This is a game that I have been excited for a really long time, from a super great company, Absolute Tabletop, who I've talked about pretty extensively here on the channel. Today I wanted to finally get around to talking about Aether Nexus. So a little bit of history of Aether Nexus, really briefly. A while ago, this guy named David Black made a hack of like old school style D&D called Black Hack, and it streamlines a lot of things and makes it like a roll under system. Super great game. It's one of my go-tos for introducing new players to the hobby. And then fast forward a couple years, and Absolute Tabletop uses the Black Hack as a basis for this game, Mecha Hack, which is rather than being about like exploring dungeons and fighting monsters and stuff, getting gold, it's about piloting mecha and being in big like mecha wars and going on missions and fighting kaiju and all sorts of stuff like this. If you are a fan of the channel, you're probably well acquainted with Mecha Hack. It's some of my most popular videos are my Mecha Hack videos. Super great system. It's a system I have a lot of love for. And yeah, this is by Absolute Tabletop. Fast forward a couple more years, and they announced Aether Nexus was coming out, which would be a like science fantasy game that's based off of Mecha Hack. And to be honest, when it first came out, I was not that excited. I was like, they're doing another Mecha Hack thing? Like, I've followed Absolute Tabletop for forever, and so I was like, they're not doing Harbinger, they're not doing Crore, what's going on? They're doing this like fantasy mecha thing? How much more mecha stuff can we take? But in looking at the Kickstarter, the art really won me over, and I love Absolute Tabletop, so I wanted to support them anyways. And I'm really glad I did, because I have read through this whole book, and I am really, really impressed with what this product offers. So that's why I wanted to make this review today. To overview the world really fast, I'll give you a little introduction to the setting. I'll talk about the rules, and then I'll just kind of give my thoughts of the overall thing. The idea is that there's this world called Iskara, and it was a whole world that was very prosperous, and the people there on this world discovered how to enter the Aether, which is like the magical world outside of the normal world, like the realm between realms kind of idea. And it's like the realm of magic, of thought, of all that kind of stuff, called the Aether. And going to the Aether brought untold prosperity, technology, advancement, all that kind of stuff. But it also unleashed these demon bug crab monsters called the Ogdra. And they ravished the world and shattered it into pieces. And so now it's just like chunks of land that orbit the core of the world, called the core sun. And I'll show some art and stuff a little bit later, because it's really, really fantastic. And now these mecha were created to drive back the Ogdra, and they were driven back for a while, but there's a threat of them coming back and finishing off the world. And so the knights, the pilots who drive these fantasy mecha suits, have to rise up once again to defend the land. That's kind of the overarching story. There's a lot that you can do with the setting besides fighting bug crab demon thingies, but that's kind of like the overarching story. As far as rules go, I'll give like a quick overview. It's D20, roll under your stat. Your class and your kin are, so you've got like the kin, and you've got like the type of robot that you have, which is called your apparatus. And then they give you like a couple abilities, and then a lot of advancement comes from like buying upgrades with experience points, basically. But it's like roll under. You have something called your Nexus die, which is something that it like represents your connection to your party. And you can roll it to power special abilities, but if you roll low, like if your Nexus die was a D8 and you rolled a 1 or a 2, I believe, then it downgrades. And if it downgrades too far, then you lose your abilities, basically. It would go from a D8 to a D6 and then to a D4, etc., etc. That's kind of there's 4 stats that you roll under. They are Stone, Flux, Aether, and Hearth. An easy way to understand it is Stone is Strength, Flux is Dexterity, Aether is Intelligence, and Hearth is Charisma. But it doesn't translate exactly like that. But that's kind of the general idea. And you've got like abilities and power-ups and it's like zone based, and there's rules for flying skyships, there's rules for like flying through the sky, there's rules for combat and for all sorts of stuff. Again, this is kind of an overview, not really a tutorial. Let me get to the stuff that makes this game really, really incredible. First off is the art. Hopefully you've gotten a good look at this piece because it's so good. But I'll show you some of my favorite art pieces throughout the game. Here is the world map. So you can see the core sun right there, and then these big land chunks that kind of float around it. Some of them are like basically continent sized, and some of them are just teeny little islands, basically. And they all orbit around the core sun. You got some cool, here's like a party. Very cool. I'll show some of the kin. You've got these guys called the Cloven, kind of like people, but they have like horns and hooves and stuff. And you've got the Glyphics, which are like statue people. Very cool. There's 8 kin options and 8 apparatus options. Here's some of the apparatus. A bastion and a dragoon. Very cool. And there's 8 options there as well. There's really cool landscape pieces. I'll try and find some of those. Here's like a big battle. Oh yeah, there's kind of what I'll show what the Ogdra look like, those demon crab thingies. I know there's a piece right here at the front that has one. That's kind of what an Ogdra looks like. So cool. There's 2 more pieces I want to show. Here's some bad guy mechas. I guess radishes. Here's a really cool landscape piece. And then the coolest art in the whole game, in my opinion, this whole book is, as I mentioned earlier, they've got skyships that you can fly and pilot. And here is a cutaway of one of the skyships. It's so cool. The longer you look, the more detail there is, and it's just so cool. Such a cool idea with such great art. So that's really what won me over initially, was the art of this game. Hopefully my overview of the world showed that it's like a cool, fun fantasy world. Some of my favorite things about it are the seasons, because it orbits around a core rather than a sun. The seasons come from how close your island is to the core. There's 4 seasons, and they basically go from drifting away from the core to drifting towards the core. And there's names for those. Yeah, the seasons are called Iskara's Breath. So there's like the sigh, which the fragments float away. There's the respire, where they draw closer. There's the embrace, where they hold close, and then the gasp, where they rapidly draw closer, and it like is crazy weather. And that's the 4 seasons. So cool. And instead of having day and night, the core sun gets lighter and then grows darker, and then the surface is like molten rock, and you can actually go there and mine rare metals. So there's just like a lot of cool world building ideas in here that make it a really fun setting that you want to explore and you want to spend time in. But besides these like cool ideas, I would say that it's very well executed. The writing is beautiful. When they're describing things, they just have incredible writing. I want to read a little blurb because it's just chef's kiss. Listen to this. The seers of Iskara have ever plotted her destiny, watching fate as it flows down the peripatetic meanderings of space and Aether. For each of her prophecies, a voice to speak them. And for every voice, a new interpretation, a blazed route among the drifts of her time, a vision of her nature, lands, and peoples. This augury is for the seer, and for those who would fulfill the seer's role. Conjure the spark and the roaring flame, the choice and the obstacle, the pain and the reward. Call forth Iskara's fragments, populate them with her denizens, and invoke the strands of her vivid lore into any story, brand new or partially woven. Just so beautiful when they're describing the world, but when they're describing rules, very succinct. For example, there's a bunch of dice. You've got like the armor die. Your armor die is rolled in response to damage, reducing the amount of harm suffered. Page 15. So it says a little bit more. Armor die. Your armor die granted by your apparatus frame can be rolled to reduce incoming damage. Shields improve your armor die rolled by adding a modifier. When you downgrade a d4 armor die, it remains a d4, but you cannot roll again until it is upgraded. So like very succinct when they're talking about rules, when they're talking about world, very, very beautiful prose. So excellently written. It also does there's just a ton of great game design in here. And it's laid out very well. I think they do a lot to improve on those initial Mecha Hack rules. I think Mecha Hack is a good system, and I think Aether Nexus is a better system because they do a lot to improve on the rules. For example, in Mecha Hack, you do like random rolls for your stats, and I think that makes sense in the Black Hack, which is the game it's based off of. It doesn't make a lot of sense in a robot game to have randomly determined stats because it's roll under. So let's say you get a 9 in one stat and a 17 in another stat, rolling 3d6. That means that it will be very hard to succeed in that 9 stat, less than 50%. But that 17, you're going to succeed very, very often. And so I don't love that. They have a follow-up book called Mecha Hack Mission Manual, which offers some other ways to do it, and I prefer those ways. But in this, it's just a standard array. So that seems a lot better to me. I think it's between 8 and 13, and then you get some modifiers based on your apparatus. Like the Dragoon gives you a +1 in Stone, Flux, and Hearth. And then it gives you like your energy and stuff. So there's just like a lot of good game design. It's like zone-based. There's different, like the ranges are very easy to understand. Let's see, I want to show you like one rule. It's got rules for like knights on foot. You've got like actions that are on foot and foes in peril and the scars you get when you drop to 0 HP basically. One of my favorite things about this game is that I think really makes it incredible is the way that XP works. When you finish a session, the seer gives you something called arsenal points that you can spend when you rest. Rest is called respite, and you can spend arsenal points to upgrade your character. So you can spend 6 of them to get a boon, which I'll find some examples of boons. Boons, you could have like better armor, you could get like a companion of this like bird thing or this jelly wisp. You could, it gives you like new abilities that make you better when you sky vault, or you can like teleport basically. Those are some boons. There's augments, which are like better weapons or energy fields or better armor or things like that. To get better augments, you take the Tinker action and it's like 12 AP. During respite, you pick 2 of these things. You can bond, which gives you +1 health, basically. +1 energy is what it's called in this game. You can spend 10 AP to increase one of your aspects. You can also forge to get a new weapon or armor or add a quality to it, and there's a handful of qualities that give it like fire damage or you know, better at blocking or whatever. And I think it's just so cool that you're like actually spending experience points rather than just gaining an arbitrary amount to level up. You're spending them, and you get to choose whether you're getting new abilities or getting better equipment or improving your stats or improving your health or whatever. There's just like so much choice to customize your character. And what's cool is you also can spend AP to upgrade your skyship. So I'll find some of those skyship upgrades, because they're also very cool. There's things like you can get employees, crew members, basically. Employees is stupid. Crew members is a better way to say it, and that's how the game says it. So you can hire these crew members, like a field commander, a quartermaster. You can have cavalry that fly out of your ship and defend it in the air. They're like these flying things. You've got like big cannons you can put on it. And my favorite one is the Skyborn Garden. A small garden provides clean air and sustenance. During respite, each knight gains +1 temporary energy and can choose to garden in addition to one other knight respite activity. While gardening, a knight can spend AP to increase the energy of the skyship at a cost of 4 AP per 1 energy. You can have a little garden on your skyship. It's so cool. And there's just like tons and tons of customization. I think that's where a lot of the really rich game design is there's so much customization to your skyship, to your apparatus, to your team, there's just like so many ways you can customize the character. And I think that's so cool. And last and possibly the strongest thing about this book, as you've probably seen throughout, is the layout. I struggle to think of a game that is better laid out than this game. Everything is very clear. They oftentimes put things in charts that make it easy to understand. There are never, to my, just like looking through, there's never just walls of text. It's always labeled and categorized and organized, and it's so easy to reference. It's so easy to read. The flow makes sense. They've got breakout boxes that mean different things. It is a gem of layout, where it's just so easy to find things, to understand things. Like, let's say I wanted to, so I'll just go to the front page and how does the zones work? Let's see. Let's check the table of contents, probably under rules of play. I guess it's under the battlefield, which is page 13. So let's head over to page 13. Okay, the battlefield, spans, boom. There it is right there. And then layout, they have rules for how the spans are laid out. and then conditions that the zones might have, how ranges work. There's like the different actions you can take. There's attacking. It's just so good. So well organized. And there's just not a lot more that I can say about this book. It I feel like I just can't say enough good things about this game. And hopefully I have been able to convey that. So if you are someone who loves great art, who loves fun science fantasy settings, who loves exceptional layout, great game design, great writing, really good world building, if this game seems like the type of game for you, I would definitely recommend going to pick it up. I will have a link in the description where you can pick up this physical copy as well as a PDF. I'll also have the drive-thru RPG link if that's a better avenue for you. Also in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, ciao.